So who are you rooting for in the women's? Because I feel like we all had to like kind of pick a team.
Did we? Who did
I
you
picked
pick?
USC. I was
Yeah.
actually I bet on them. I was legitimately bummed out. I was at a bar in Boston last night, and I asked them to turn on the USC game, and I was like, "That's a first for me. I've never asked a bartender to turn on a women's game, but that's like I care more about them than the men's this year. I've just really enjoyed it. I think it's been really good basketball.
Yeah, I mean, we're still buzzing from the high of LSU Iowa right now. Or a day
It's like
later.
the sporting event of the year so far.
It was. I am sort of faintly rooting for South Carolina because I love Dawn Staley. That's the other thing. Like, the women's basketball is on fire right now because the talent and the players and the superstars and everybody, they're like household names and huge characters, right? On all of these teams. Paige, Angel, Caitlin, obviously. But the other thing I think that gets kind of unnoticed is, or like maybe underplayed, maybe not underplayed, but I think is like the coaches are just as big of characters.
It's
way
like
more than
what the 80s were like.
Yeah.
We used to have like the Big East. Every school had a coach who was like this like legitimate A-list character, like Lou Carnesecca, Raleigh Massimino, John Thompson. And it feels like that's happening in women's to the kind of the same parallel.
And I think that they have more beef than the actual players have
yeah.
beef. And I kind of want to see Don versus Gino in the, I love watching Iowa, and I'll be disappointed if we don't get to see Caitlin Clark go for the finals. But like, I love these coaching matchups, and I love Dawn Staley. Like, I think she's probably my favorite coach in almost any sport right now.
That Caitlin game last night was, and I didn't get to watch it because I was doing an event, so I had to come back and like zoom through it.
Oh,
like the revenge factor of it. There's definitely, she has that quality that a lot of the great athletes have, where they like, there's like a grudge factor. It's almost like I wish we could insert this into the NFL draft prospect. Like, what's your grudge factor? There's no way to figure this out. What's your grudge factor? This should be one of the interviews. That should. What's been the 3 maddest you've ever been at somebody, and how did you get revenge on them? I'd almost want to know the answer. But it seemed like she had it. She was so good in that. Some of the shots she hit, like there were a couple step backs that were legitimate Curry step backs. They were inconceivable.
And like so many heat check moments too in that game. It
totally.
It was kind of so my husband doesn't watch. He's not a sports guy or whatever, but he was walking by. I feel like a lot of people had this experience where he's seen a couple of games. He was watching the LSU South Carolina game when they got the fight with me at the end, or when that happened, and he was drawn into that. But anyways, he was watching by, and he just like could not stop watching her, and he was just riveted by it. And I think that's an experience like at houses across the country that we're having that. I don't feel like it's overstating it to say she's like a transformational athlete. And I don't feel like, by the way, that's discrediting all of the other amazing women's college basketball players currently, before her, whatnot. Obviously, that's, we're at this moment in large part because of that, but it takes nothing away from them to say that, like, this is a person who has riveted the country.
That's really well said, because I think what's special about it, it's to me is exactly what the Curry Davidson thing was like for 2 years, but on a way bigger level with more stakes and more scrutiny. Like Curry, when he on Davidson, was like, "Oh, this is super fun." Del Curry's son, whoa, look at the shooting range on this kid. He looks like he's 4 years old, and it was fun. But this is the fact that she's had real adversity, and that she stayed with the team that she's. We got to watch them last year and they lost, and now they're back and they're trying. And that's what college sports used to be about. And that's what's been lost on the men's side to some degree, but is one of the cool things about the Purdue story. Where it's like Zach Edey's like, I want to come back. I want to see if we can actually win this. And it's like, let's come back. And, I feel like we have a history with that team a little bit. But the Iowa, I don't think it's overstating it to say she has a chance to be on that level with some of the people that feel like they've tilted a sport in a different direction. Tiger did that in golf. Steph did that with 3-point shooting. You could go on and on. There are examples of this. I feel like Serena did that with women's tennis, where it's like, whoa, where are we going with this? And it feels like it's happening with her. And then all the imitators are going to come in 7-8 years. You know, the generation of girls who are like 8, 9, 10 who are just like, I want to shoot like her.
I was gonna say,
that's the next step.
Youth basketball coaches are like, stop trying.
Oh, like, please don't imitate Caitlin Clark's step back. You're 8.
Yeah. No, so did you read Wright Thompson did a really good piece on her for ESPN, and a lot of it was about, you know, her psychology, which is like what you described. I really think that sort of insane grudge factor, which is so amazing and so amazing to read about a female athlete, the perils of navigating fame at that age and the level of fame. But a lot of the piece was about how she had learned to basically play with her teammates who candidly are not as good as her, right? And not get frustrated and to involve them. And she's played with some good players over the years. But I think this team was perceived as a bit weaker coming into this. And that adds this like extra layer of interest to me, because we were talking about the shooting. She's such a good passer. She has some some sloppy, some turnovers in this one, but she has some really, really cool passes in it. And I feel like I'm watching a show where this is the main character, but I remember a lot of these guys from season 2. Oh yeah, like Gabby and you know, Kate, and like I'm like, you know,
it's like, hey, the sergeant. We're 2 of the only people who watch Tokyo Vice.
Why don't more people watch Tokyo Vice? Can we use this platform to spread the word?
I would urge people to give Tokyo Vice a chance. I'm with you on the passing. Honestly, some of her passes are breathtaking, and she's doing it a step before you realize that the pass was even there, which is like that last step for the great passers. Yeah. And I wonder, like, when she finally goes to the next level, when she's playing with better teammates, the passing is going to be what stands out, because it's going to be harder for her to shoot with. There's going to be more size. There's going to be deep, but the way she uses her teammates, that's what I really love. I just like watching her. It's funny because JuJu, who unfortunately lost last night, but different kind of an arc, because she was always the best.
Yeah.
And like from 5th grade on, she was the best in her class year after year after year. We knew about her in LA when she was like in 6th grade. And she was always the best, always the best, always the best, but really still wants it. And to me, she looks like Taurasi. When I watch her, I'm like, she's like a faster Taurasi. And the way
skill level.
Oh my God. Yeah. She's the way, when she goes coast to coast and can like, you know, basically do these pseudo Euro steps. Yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ. I didn't know a woman could play basketball like this.
She's so far from her final form too. That's the other thing.
Totally.
I mean, you talked about like, because I think that's the thing that is maybe, obviously people who cover this sport talk about all the time, is the difficulty of transitioning to WNBA. Much more so than, you know, much more so, but it is very hard to be impactful. We see that all the time with these college superstars. And you talked about Caitlin, who I think is going to, like, her passing is going to just get better and better in the league. And you think about how freaking young JuJu is. And yeah, it's unbelievable to me, like, as her game matures, how good it's funny because we're coming off talking about the NFL draft and floors and ceilings. I think her ceiling is maybe as high as any player I've ever watched.
I agree. She'll be the face of the sport next year. I was watching with my daughter last night. They're the exact same age, and she was in a different school in LA, but they were, you know, so it's going to be one of those, like, when she retires from the WNBA when she's 37, I'm like, oh my God, my daughter's so old. But I was like, this kid's the same age as you.
Yeah.
Playing on ESPN, playing in front of 25,000 people with a shitload of pressure on her in a game people can bet on. Like, can you imagine that? My daughter was just like, oh my God. She's kind of built for this. Pretty interesting though. In general, that last basketball weekend, it really felt like college basketball. That was like the first time in a while I felt like everybody I knew was talking about some aspect of it in the last few years. We're all those Saturday games on the women's side, but then the men's games and what's UConn, and it was fun. It was a weekend that I had felt like was kind of dying in some ways. And now it feels like it's a little bit alive again.
Yeah, this March Madness feels much more, to me personally, enthralling than last year. I mean, obviously for work, pay attention to, I mean, we don't talk about NFLI, we talk about it on Around the Horn. So I'm always watching the games and listening to podcasts and watching the coverage. But I feel like, I don't know what it is. I mean, I think the women's side is pretty obvious. Like I said, we've been talking about, it's the confluence of all these stars and familiar stars.
And the coaches as like HBO characters.
They really are. I think the coverage has been great. I mean, something that was really cool for me yesterday is to see really like all of America appreciate how awesome the ESPN commentators who have been on this all season long, Elle Duncan, Shanae, Andrea, at halftime, just the passion and the fun that they have talking about it. I just feel like, to use your parlance, it's having a moment.